Welcome in. Let's talk some FSU football recruiting. Ben Spicer joined by Michael Langston. Some big decisions coming up. Probably the biggest, Michael, is five-star offensive lineman Josh Petty, set to decide within the next 2 weeks, I believe. And Florida State right there in the mix, though several schools have been making a late surge for the services of Petty. What can you tell us about the five-star offensive lineman from Georgia?
Yeah, visited both FSU and Georgia Tech. I think the FSU visit was extremely important after he had, last second, set up the Georgia Tech one. I think it's still those two teams. I wouldn't count out everybody like Stanford or Ohio State because we've heard some buzz about Ohio State, but those have been two teams that I think it's been centered around. Certainly, Brent Key's a former offensive line guy, so he certainly has a connection there. But I think FSU has long, put themselves in a good position with Josh Petty. Obviously, it was his sister likely to expected to enroll at FSU, and two, just the way he feels there is a different level. You could sense that with the way he talked about after the visit. I still feel the same way I did before he took these visits, which is Georgia Tech's major surge and a strong push, but I haven't got enough stuff that I feel like it pushes me off of FSU. Everything I still hear is I still feel it would be FSU at this point. But I do think Georgia Tech is a serious threat. But everything I've gotten, sounds like just FSU. Even with checking it earlier, this week, I think probably he's in decision mode, breaking down stuff. But I haven't heard any change that, like I said, would move me away from FSU. And like I said, they feel good about what they accomplished and what they hit on throughout that visit. When he took a visit to FSU, took in a practice, was around the staff a lot, and just the family. There's a lot of connections to FSU that checks off everything when you talk about just the stuff he's looking for academically, stuff from a football standpoint, and certainly where the product is going at FSU. But it's not like a done deal or final. We haven't heard a final call where he's indicated, "Hey, I'm going to sign with this school or that school." But we do continue to hear that if there was choice was made, there was nothing that would move us off of FSU when you compare them to Georgia Tech or any other school. So it's something I've continued to monitor, but it continues to be in the same realm of where it was.
Let's speculate a little bit, play a little hypotheticals. What do you say? So, adding Josh Petty to the class, if they are able to do so, what does that do to the offensive line commits and the commits overall? Because you would think perhaps that could push FSU into the top five, maybe with two five-stars committed in the trenches.
Yeah, I haven't looked at their team rankings lately. I think it was 7 last time I saw it. It's probably like 7 or 8, I would say. And so if you get a guy like Josh Petty, a 5 star, yeah, it's probably good chance they're going to be in that top five. And then you add in some other guys that you have that I think could decide in August or early September, and in 4 star running back Byron Lewis and 4 star running back Usman Chromo. I think both of those guys. I think FSU has a very strong, legit shot. I think the better shot probably would be with Byron, but I think it's close. But overall, it's kind of a weird one where with Byron, you have Miami coming in and pushing really hard and trying to make a surge in there. And then with Byron, it's more like you feel like FSU has the momentum there. They view Georgia as the biggest threat, although I wouldn't count out Auburn. He did visit for the Big Cat event over there at Auburn, but I still feel like FSU and Georgia have been the two teams, and Georgia's always consistently been the team that is mentioned the most to me of competition. But there is a lot of momentum with FSU. I even was close after he visited that weekend FSU that I was close to putting in a pick, but I'm still waiting to decipher everything. But I think overall those are two guys that FSU certainly has a great shot with. There's also a pair of DBs that we'll see, later in the process, where it be August or maybe early September, right before the season starts. You have Ladarian Clardy. You also have Bryce Fitzgerald. All these guys are 4 stars, and you certainly have Onus Conan Banny, who's another one that FSU Tennessee. So for those that missed the memo or on a Bermuda island or something, Ladarian announced that he is not committing on that set August 2nd date. I think that's personally good news for FSU because I think the pick would have been Ole Miss, at least at this stage. But I get the sense that I get the feeling that he might want to take not just the FSU visit, but maybe he wants to take some more visits, maybe in season before he makes that final call and push because we know he visited Washington over the weekend, and then I think he visited Ole Miss on Wednesday, and then I get the sense he wants to visit FSU and maybe a few others that have been pushing to try to get in the picture. I think he just wants to get this right. I don't think he wants to be one of those kids that commits and then just goes flip flop back and forth like 3 or 4 times. I think Ladarian is a kid that's very loyal to what he wants to do with the decision. So overall, I think those are some that I think they'll focus on. And I think too, if FSU was able to, let's say hypothetically, they get Petty and they get either one or if they get two of those backs, both of those backs, that you would think they're firmly inside the top five, maybe even in the top 3 or 4. But if you add a DB in there, like a 4-star DB, you would think solidly it could be 3. But um, obviously, we're getting ahead and we're playing a lot of
Yeah,
hypotheticals. But
right.
if I just think in general, if they could land like 2 guys from what I've covered already, I think you're going to probably be in that top 5.
Let's circle back to the trenches, the topic of the video. Of course, Josh Petty, we talked about him. But who are some other targets, perhaps in the trenches, that FSU is continuing to pursue? I know they have Peyton Joseph committed as well as Solomon
Yeah.
Thomas at this point in time. So who are some other names to know in the offensive line?
Definitely Max Buchanan, this guy at Sanford Seminole, is committed to Miami. I'm not sure that's a solid commitment. I mean, I'm sure Max will come. Oh, I'm good, but I get the feeling of just the intel I get both from the FSU side and people around him that that's one that goes into the season. I think he will see FSU for a game, maybe a game or two. That's one that FSU was like, really high up there. And I know Miami had a very aggressive NIL package for him, but that's one that I still consider as FSU and Miami battle. I don't think it's set in stone. I don't think it's done. So that's one that I'm certainly watching. Zaire Addison is another one. For people that saw it last night, FSU started extending their August 1st official offers where they can officially, written offers that they can give to the recruits for the 2025 class. So we saw that last night. Zaire certainly got one of them, and that's one that I think you could see on campus that it might surprise some people that he pops in there and they're like, oh yeah, he's here. So I think there's a long time standing relationship there. I just think that's one that they spent a lot of time and coveted a lot. So I still think that's one that they're going to be in the picture for. We've covered some guys that you either from the camp and Brent Pillow, or who's committed to South Florida, and then another one is Daniel here, St. Louis, excuse me. That's one that camped at FSU. They offered just recently, probably a few weeks ago. I think those are kind of we'll see guys as they. I think they want to watch them play, and then they'll decide how much the pursuit is. But I think as far as the offensive line, those are the kind of the 2 guys that I think for sure they're still going to continue to pursue pretty strongly.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. We're looking forward to some big decision dates looming here over the next couple weeks before kickoff comes up later this month. Can't believe it's August already, Michael, but exciting times here at warchant.com. And we've got you covered. Head over to warchant.com and the Premium Recruiting Board. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already on your way out. For Michael, I'm Ben. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for more FSU recruiting talk.